So now that I know you can actually hear me and respond, I've got a question for you. Like if you could wave your magic wand and have the ideal recruit for you just show up, how many of them would you want? Right? So give me a number. I want to hear it. Enter the number of those ideal recruits you'd love to have join you in your team, at your brokerage, in your organization, whatever the case may be.
For those of you who are watching right now, we were actually just talking about how Dan is a musician and an old pro skateboarder.
An old pro, that's hilarious. I'll take the pro part as a compliment, but I'm coming at you with the old.
Should I have said X?
Well, for total clarity, I just loved it. I never got paid to do it. It's just fun, and it's still fun. So, man, look at all these people showing up. Hello, Beth and Christopher. Christopher Sabate. All right. We got Arindira and Jamie and Jay and John, and the list is just growing like crazy. Thank you for being here. Thank you.
What's up, everyone? How we doing? Good deal. Dan, really excited for this. I know you've been doing this, doing this well for some time, and I'm really honored to be a part of this process with you. Really excited about today.
Thank you. Thank you. So there's a few ground rules I want to get out of the way up front. First, this is a live freaking session. So if you don't ask your questions, you're not taking full advantage of having us here. Like we're both in a position where we're committed to serving you to the best of our ability. So please don't be shy with your questions. And I see Tiffany's already asked one here. Tiffany, no problem. All these sessions are recorded. They'll all be posted to the LabCoatAgents YouTube channel. So, stick around, get the most out of this, but you definitely don't have to jump here until you absolutely need to. Like you want to be.
Look at that, Jake the Great already putting the link.
He's not messing around. We know how awesome Jake is. Right. So can you guys give me a comment, a yes, we can hear you, we can see you. Let's make sure all the tech is working perfect before we kick this off. Okay, awesome. Yes. Boom. So now that I know you can actually hear me and respond, I've got a question for you. Like if you could wave your magic wand and have the ideal recruit for you just show up, how many of them would you want? Right? So give me a number. I want to hear it. Enter the number of those ideal recruits you'd love to have join you in your team, at your brokerage, in your organization, whatever the case may be. Tanya says all. I want them all. I want them all. Okay. All right. So that's kind of like me wanting to lose weight. And, people say how much. I'm like, all. I want to lose it all, right?
I want to be air.
Make my abs visible. That's all I really care about. Geesh. All right. All or nothing, Tanya. I love it. Beth is also on the all train. So, but Christopher and Nathan, you're putting some numbers here, and this is really useful. So Nathan says 15. Christopher's saying he wants to double their size, so to 30 or more. Arindira, what a beautiful name that is. I hope I'm pronouncing that right. She says 15. Tanya, realistically, I want 5. Thank you. That's awesome. So, just like any worthwhile, meaningful goal, we have to boil it down to a number, right? So I'm not going to be the math geek for you today like I could be, but having that number is really helpful. And, it's not enough just to know how many. You really want to understand, ideally, what those people are like. So, Tanya, I'll use you an example. You're saying 5. So at that scale, right? At Christopher's scale, doubling size to 30 agents. When you're that small, you become the agents you recruit, right? If you had 1,000, 1,500, 2,000 agents, you might add some who don't really fit the mold, and it's not going to change the shape of your organization. But when you're 5 or 15 or 30, who you recruit really matters. And today's session isn't going to be just about recruiting the right people. It's going to be about doing it quickly and it's going to be about getting absolutely the right ones. So are we cool? Are we ready to go ahead and get that done? I think we are. So
Thumbs up. 2 thumbs up.
I'm going to share my screen because what the heck, I should do that. So what you're seeing right now is a page on my website, and I want to set some expectations for you because, I serve plenty of people who say, Dan, if I could add 5 or 10 and they were great, that would be like a gift from God. Thank you. And I have others who say, hey, I need 200 per month, right? So whatever the scale is of what you need, what I'm going to teach you today is going to help you get there. And I'm just going to play a quick segment of a video here that helps you understand that. So here we go.
It's just fantastic. Happy Grasshopper has changed the way that we recruit here. I needed to kind of step up my game a little bit. And so I reached out to Dan, who walked me through it. And wow, it's been a complete game changer for me. So for somebody who's been recruiting for probably 15 years, this has been a game changer and probably the best results I've seen. In 4 months, I personally hired 87 realtors.
Bam!
What's really exciting is it's 87 high producing realtors. So I was really able to target to that and then speak to them at that level. Because sometimes in this business of recruiting realtors, it's not that difficult to get realtors that are lower producing or struggling, and are looking for an answer with a brokerage. I'm in a unique situation that I really needed high producing realtors. And that's really what we've done. We have to be very particular of who we hire. And so we actually turn away about 40% of the people. So that's the candidates that are coming are extremely high quality. And we take about, so if you consider that I'm turning down 40% and I've still hired 87 in the last 4 months, it's just fantastic. Happy Grasshopper has changed the way that we recruit here.
All right. So that's enough of the commercial, right? And please understand, like the reason I wanted to play that for you is so that you understand everything that I'm going to teach you today can really work for you in a very meaningful way if you apply what I'm teaching you, right? So I'm going to go ahead and put up a few slides here now. We're going to talk about the reality of recruitment, why so many people are getting it wrong, and what you need to do to get it right so it actually works for you in your organization. So you'll notice that Tristan is much better looking when he comes dressed as Mark. Have you noticed that? I noticed that right away. Like that was pretty cool. So good move there for sure. Right?
Well, we're in the same t-shirt, so it works.
Yeah, we'll make that happen. And I don't know where you guys found that picture. That cracks me up. I think that was at an event probably like right before COVID. So I love it.
Dan, you look
knocking it out, man.
You look excited in that photo. I love it. It's like a genuine happiness.
My hair was super excited in that photo. That was really good. So here's a truth about recruitment. Like, man, it can wear you out. It can absolutely make you just worn out if you're not doing it the right way. And, I know a lot of you are tuned in right now. You have that experience of, I have so many responsibilities and I have to find time to squeeze in recruitment, right? So it's like that chore that is nagging at your subconscious. It's the most important thing and yet it gets the least amount of your attention, right? So part of the problems that I've discovered is that many people who need to recruit don't actually know how to do it. So let's start there. Let's just be honest. Real estate is a career where a lot of people have zero sales training, right? They didn't set out to become a salesperson. They set out to help people, right? And then, at some point you find yourself building a team or becoming a broker, managing a brokerage. You probably never got any formal training in what it means to actually recruit people. So, if that sounds remotely familiar to you, please give me a yes in the chat. Let me know that that's the page where I want to make sure I understand you guys. So we'll see that stuff pile in here. Now, my goal today in helping you guys is to really lay it clear and plain. I will show you exactly what you need to do to get, serve, and keep great people, no matter what happens in our market. And the way I'm going to show you to do that is by pulling the right levers. Okay. So, think about this for me. Like Mark, in your business, in my business, in the businesses of every single person who's here today, we basically have two levers, right? You throw a rock in real estate technology, everything sends messaging. That's the one lever. So we call that mechanics, right? Whether it's my system, another system, any of dozens of services, they all organize contacts. They all send messages of some variety. In fact, we live at a time when it's easier than ever to send a message and harder than ever to send a message people will respond to. Does that sound right? Absolutely. So being able to send the message is one lever, sending the right message is the other one. And when you master them both, you can really achieve some substantial goals in a very short amount of time. So Christopher, I want you to pay attention to this. This is Live Real Estate in Edmonton, Canada. They had 17 agents, and the big goal was to add 25. Like if we could add 25 over a year, that would be awesome. And using what I've taught them, they're able to meet that goal in just 2 months, right? So there's like proof point after proof point after proof point after proof point. And I'm not going to spend a lot of time belaboring that stuff because I want to teach you guys how to actually get these results. Now, what you're seeing on the screen right now is my contact information. So grab that QR code. You'll connect directly to me, save my contact information. You can reach out to me directly. Or if it's easier for you, just go to danstewart.com. You can connect with me there. I want you to know that I am 100% in my labor of love phase. I've been very fortunate to have a tremendous career. And, today I'm here to serve you guys however I can. That's going to continue on into the future. So whether it's through a partnership like we have with LabCoatAgents, or whether it's serving each of you individually, what you can rely on me for and my employees at Happy Grasshopper is to help you send messaging that allows you to achieve these results. That's it. And the one common thread for all of these things is that we've got to cut through the noise that's in the marketplace today. So remember what I said about how it's never been easier to send a message and harder to get a message heard? Like there's so much cool data here. I'm going to geek out for a moment. This is data from a study that goes all the way back to 1945. And what's interesting is you see the amount of media minutes consumed per day skyrocket, and yet our brains just can't hold very much more, right? We're only noting marginally more ads than we were way back in 1945, right? Now, here is an up to the moment study from a company called Oberlo. Now, what they're showing is that our media consumption is downright insane. Look at this, 482 minutes per day we're consuming digital media. I mean, think of it, that's a massive amount of time. And that's not all, right? We're also consuming traditional media at an average of 318 minutes per day. And if you add those two numbers together, you come up with a whopping 13.3 hours per day. The average person is consuming media. Okay. We are professional consumers. Let's just accept that and understand that because we're spending so much of our lives just receiving messaging, it makes a real impact on the way our brains work. Right. I'm going to teach you to leverage that a little bit later. So first thing I need you to do is just kind of like go, oh my God, I had no idea. And I promise you, you probably wake up just like I do, right? Alarm goes off, you grab your phone, you're already consuming digital media. Before you've had your first sip of water or coffee, before you've stood up for the first time, you're consuming digital media. Right? This is the world we live in. It's a great challenge and it's a great opportunity. So to cut through this clutter, we need a new framework. We have to adopt a new methodology to get better results. And, if you think about the classic sort of marketing framework, where it's feature and benefit and scarcity and call to action, Like all of our brains know exactly what that is. We're able to filter that out really. Oh, I don't need to pay attention. It's marketing. Like we just shove it aside, right? So the net here is that you're not going to win if you say to these people you're trying to recruit, join us because we offer X and Y and Z. We have technology, we have training, we have culture, we have leads. All of that is what everyone else has, right? That message is not going to be perceived by your ideal recruit. It's going to be ignored by them. So the way to first cut through this clutter is to adopt a new framework and understand that recruitment is really about helping them realize that it's time for change, right? They have to first decide for themselves, you know what, where I am isn't going to lead me where I want to go, right? We've got to change that mindset. And, this works outside of recruitment. It works in all marketing. In fact, one of my favorite examples, Mark, is car marketing. Are you a car guy? Like, say yes in the chat if you're a car guy, right?
Love cars.
Okay. I appreciate cars. I live on a horse farm and I have kids, right? So I think it's kind of silly for me to spend too much money on a car. I'm perfectly happy with my Subaru. Like, I don't need anything better than that. But Mercedes and whoever else, they send me this stuff in the mail. They would very much like me to buy one of their cars, right? I have the means and the capability. I do not have the desire. That's the exact same perspective a lot of your recruits are in right now. They have the means. They could make the change. They don't have the desire to make the change. So, if I get a call from, I don't know, Tristan or Nick, like we're buddies, right? I'd pick them up in my Subaru. I wouldn't worry about it. But there may be somebody out there who, if I had to take them for a ride in my car, all of a sudden I'd have the internal reason to pay attention to that marketing that I'm currently just ignoring, right? So that process that I've just described there is something we need to activate inside the minds of your potential recruits. So if you imagine who that ideal recruit is, you need to ask yourself, what are the sort of things they're suffering from? What are they struggling with? Where can I offer my leadership to these people such that they realize they're not in the best place, right? And I'll give you some examples of this. Now, we're going to circle back a moment to all that time that we spend consuming media and the consequences that has in our lives. So there's a wonderful study conducted by sociologists using an FMRI machine. And what that machine does is it monitors the pathways that light up in our brains in response to different images that we view. Okay. Now, their study shows really conclusively that members of a common society have the same pathways. And those common pathways, information travels much faster, like it registers for us really quickly. So if we can understand which pathways are useful for recruitment, we can create the kind of results that Heidi and so many of other of those people I mentioned have had, right? This is the thing that's so radically different. And I get that it sounds like voodoo. There's some power out there that we're going to tap into that's going to change all these results. So I'm going to step out on a limb and attempt to demonstrate this for you right now. So Mark, I'm going to ask you not to say it out loud, right? I'm going to show an image, and everyone else, I want you to type in just as quickly as you can what this image makes you think of, right? So get your fingers on the keyboard, be ready to respond to this. And Mark, if you just give me a thumbs up as soon as you think of it, right?
Got it.
Okay, so here we go, guys. Here's the image. Okay, so what does that make you think of? Tell me in the chat. Bam, 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 bam.
Right.
Like I see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 answer. Jake, you're hilarious. So with the exception of Jake, every single person has said Star Wars. Every single person. And Tobias, choose. I see you there. Guten Tag. My German friend Tobias is with us today. So I just met him in Las Vegas a couple of weeks ago. Love it. So here's the thing, guys. Because of our exposure to media, that common shared exposure to media, that pathway exists in our brains. We're all able to instantly say Star Wars because we've all been exposed to that in what we've consumed over our lifetimes. Now, the way to leverage this for recruitment is to understand that the slide doesn't say Star Wars, okay? The slide says the hero's journey. All I did was use the same font on a starry sky background. Okay, now the hero's journey is what matters that's on that slide. That's the story that takes place inside Star Wars and hundreds of other movies that we'll consume in our lifetimes, right? So there are 7 story archetypes. The hero's journey is most prevalent in our society. So we have a protagonist. The protagonist wants something. They can't get that something until they have a meeting with the mentor who helps them do it, right? So think about Luke when we meet him. His parents have died. He lives with his aunt and uncle. He dreams of a life he has no access to until he meets that crazy old man in the bathrobe walking around the desert, right? If he doesn't meet Obi-Wan, the story doesn't progress. Now, how similar is that to Harry Potter? His parents have died. He lives with his aunt and uncle. He dreams of a future he has no access to until he meets another bearded stranger, right? How similar is that to the Karate Kid? We'll go way back to the 80s. If Daniel-san doesn't meet Mr. Miyagi, his life doesn't change, right? So the critical thing for you to understand is that people aren't looking for a better model. People aren't looking for a better split or better leads. That's what you think they're looking for. What they really want is someone who can guide them into the future they imagine for themselves. That's what they really want. So to achieve that, we must position you as the guide. Key learning there. You have to show up as someone they are willing to follow before you show up as someone who has a great model. Okay. So whichever organization you're with, people will follow you into it if they see you as a guide, right? Now, the question would be, well, which type of guide? You know, we've got that corporate recruiter style guide, that Obi-Wan, who's a big part of the story early on, who isn't around very far into the story. I have plenty of clients who fall into that role. You know, their job is to get that agent excited about joining. Once the agent joins, they're no longer really connected with them like they were beforehand. We also have a recruiting profile that's more like Luke, right? These are agents you're recruiting to tuck underneath your wing and then go into the battle together. So if you're recruiting to your team, if you're a managing broker, you're almost certainly more like Luke. If you're recruiting to an organization, like, you know, profit share or revenue share, or you're a corporate recruiter, you're almost certainly more like Obi-Wan. And it's important to understand that because you need to show up as the type of guide you actually are, right? So I've covered a lot here, and I just want to take your pulse because those of you who are watching, you're either absolutely loving this or you think it's just crazy. So tell me, love it or crazy in the chat, please. I want to see. You love it or I'm crazy, one or the other. Jake loves it. Tanya loves it. Okay, who thinks I'm crazy? Come on, there's got to be somebody. Love it. I'm crazy about it. Very cool. Thank you, Mark.
No, really, that's really good stuff.
Yeah, so now that we've got the theory out of the way, like, you know, if we see eye to eye on that theory, the rest of it's pretty easy. Because, you know, I would ask you to, instead of constantly be pitching a model or a brand, to really start conversations on subjects of merit. And, you know, to do that, we first have to ask ourselves, well, where does recruitment really happen? What is the terrain that this takes place in? And I want you to write this down, everybody. There's 3 elements of terrain you need to pay attention to. The first is geographical. Like if you have a brick and mortar location, there's a radius around which you can't realistically recruit more people. So geography is one element of terrain. The second element is digital. Digital terrain is really important. Where do you show up online? How do you look when you do? How should you look in order to be perceived as a guide? Those things are very, very important to consider. Now, the third element of terrain, and I'll tell you, if you get the third one right, you can do a not so great job on the first two, and it's still going to work really well. The third element of terrain is the psychological terrain of your ideal recruit. Okay, so I want you to think about this. Like, Mark, you're a productivity coach. You work with a lot of agents, right? And without naming names, I'm going to guess that some of those people, when you meet with them, you feel elated. Like they're on your calendar, you're looking forward to it, you're excited because you know that person is going to like feed you energy and just feel great to serve. And then you may have some people who show up on your calendar and you're like, oh, that person again, right? We may have let that person into our lives at some point. And I'm here to tell you that when you're recruiting, you have the luxury of making the choice. Does that person meet the standard that our organization lives by? At my stage, I'm not willing to pour time and effort and talent and training and resources into a person who isn't willing to help themselves, right? So whatever your internal list of musts are for your agents, I want you to write it down as your ideal agent profile. Okay. It's tempting to define that just in terms of production. It goes so much deeper. Are they positive? Are they open-minded? Are they tenacious? Do they collaborate well with others? Are they competitive? Are they goal-driven? Like, think about all those different characteristics and, decide which are really important for you. And again, not for nothing, if you need my help with that, you've got my information. You can go ahead and book a call with me. At danstewart.com, you can grab all my information and my calendar. So we've covered these three elements of terrain, and I've stressed to you that the psychological terrain is the most important. So now that you've defined this ideal agent, you have a sense of who they are and what they're like, ask yourself, what's stressing them out? If they can't sleep tonight, why? If they're driving by that bar at 2 p.m. thinking, ooh, I could use a drink, why? What's bugging them? Is it industry change? Is it market dynamics? Is it interest rates? Is it litigation? Is it legislation? Is it the fact that they've written 6,000 offers this year and only had 3 accepted? Like, whatever those stressors are, those are the key moments for you to provide leadership. Okay? Because when you show up to rescue them from their present pain, your perspective changes, right? Think about when we met Obi-Wan. He wasn't pitching a model, right? He was rescuing Luke from a dire consequence. So when you're able to do that, when you're able to speak to the pain of your ideal recruit, your positioning changes, right? You're not that weird old guy who hangs out in the desert. You're not that guy anymore, right? You're the leader that recruits become willing to follow. Right? So if you don't get your positioning right with recruitment, you're not differentiating yourself from anyone else. So whether it's Keller Williams or EXP or Better Homes and Gardens or ERA, or you name the brand, right? Whatever that brand might be, your recruits have to see you as someone they're willing to follow before what that brand offers is really important. Okay? Key point there. So then we have to ask ourselves, well, where do we get these people? How can I figure out who I need to position myself to? And there's a lot of things you could do. You could advertise. I have a few members who advertise for agents. They're almost exclusively people who want that brand new licensee. brand new people are great in that they're green and you get to train them the way you'd like it to be done. And they're also risky in the fact that you have no idea whether or not they're going to stick in the industry. So, maybe your ideal agent profile is brand new, or maybe it's that experienced agent who's already capping, who's already producing where they are. Maybe it makes a lot more sense to target that person. So if you're targeting that experienced agent, well, there's lots of lists you can go to get that information. One great thing about our industry is there are lists available. So it's not like you've got to go meet them one by one. You can download them, right? And one of the best ways to do that would be with tools like Market View Broker, Broker Metrics, and Realytics. Big fans of these services because they plug into your MLS and they export not just the contact information, but also the production data of agents in your market. And this is a great thing to be able to do because it allows you to make a first contact message in a way that's helpful rather than sell, right? So this is a geek test. Do you see what I did there? Do you?
Oh, yes.
I made the switch to Star Trek, right? We're in a little bit more of a diplomatic universe there. And that's how I want you to think of your first contact messages. So, Mark, I'm going to use you as an example here. Let's imagine you're an agent in my market that I'd like to recruit to my organization. Okay. So I've got your contact information. I know your production. And I have some options here. I could send like a nice HTML email talking about what my brand offers and that we're hiring agents, in which case your brain would immediately filter that. It would look like marketing. You would ignore it, right? So I believe in sending content that causes people to engage. And content that does that is a little bit harder to come by. It's not one size fits all. It's unique to the situation. So here are 3 examples that are reliably effective. So the first one, I'll just riff on this a minute for you, Mark. Hey, Mark, it's Dan over at Happy Grasshopper Real Estate. I'm reaching out because a few of us have realized Zillow shutting down their iBuyer division is going to pay dividends this quarter. I'm curious if you're seeing the same thing. Would love to chat. All my best, Dan. Right? So you get that message and you're going, okay, who's Dan? And yeah, I remember Zillow shut down the iBuyer unit, but there's opportunity here? So I've immediately, just by asking that question, I've positioned myself as someone who has some insight that you may not, right? And it raises the curiosity and it leaves it unresolved. So that sort of a cold outreach message gets a higher response than messaging that's purely focused on, will you join us? So second example, hey, Mark, just reviewing the market stats. Looks like you crushed it in March. Keep up the great work. All my best, Dan. Right? Just a pure compliment. No recruitment message whatsoever, because before we ask somebody to get married, we're going to take them to dinner, right? We're going to get to know this person before we ask them to change their life. Now, the third one, particularly in your role as a productivity coach, like this is something you could do today, Mark. Think of someone who represents that ideal recruit within your organization that's just done something worth celebrating, right? I'll imagine that's you. So imagine I post on Facebook something like, hey, everybody, please join me in congratulating Mark. Wow. We know from the moment we met him, he was going to do fantastic things because of his work ethic, his commitment to taking care of people, the way he collaborates with everyone in the office, and his will to win. So congratulations, Mark, on pending your 4th transaction. We're super proud of you and know there's great stuff ahead. And then tag a bunch of other people in the office, right? let the social media magic work its thing. So Mark's family is seeing that. Like, I don't know if you've got a wife or kids, or think of the people in the life of an agent who have to deal with you getting a text at dinner, right? Those people get to see you being praised in front of your peers. It's a great thing. It recognizes them. So that kind of social media post is great. And then you can make it even more powerful by grabbing that social media link and sending it as an email to everyone you might consider recruiting. And rather than just putting like the whole post in there, you have a subject line that says, "Did you see what Mark did?" ? Right? That's going to guarantee a very high open rate. And then the body of the email is, "This is amazing." And then you've got this nice, safe Facebook link, Instagram link, LinkedIn link, very safe link for them to click on. They're going to jump in there. And that's where the algorithms at social media are going to see that lots of agents pay attention to what you post, and they will therefore share more of your content with other agents.
Love that. It's great.
So yeah, there's a nice little tactical way to do that. And let me see here. Jake, I'm just seeing your message there. So absolutely. Let me go ahead and wrap this up for everyone. I've given you the roadmap. Like, you can fill this in, you can color it in yourself, or we can get together and I'll help you build your own recruitment blueprint, right? That's where we'll collaborate together to figure out exactly who you're going to get, how many you need, and by when you need them. So to make that happen, just connect with me directly. My calendar is up at happygrasshopper.com/Dan. And I want to just thank everybody for your attention and your attendance today. Jake, thank you very much for popping that note in there. I appreciate that. And Mark, a pleasure to meet you.
Absolute pleasure to meet you, Dan. What a wealth of information. I love this. This is fantastic.
All right. Well, good stuff. So Jake, I saw he popped up there. I guess there's another webinar that's just starting. So Tanya, thank you. Tobias, thank you. Great to see you guys. And of course, I'll be happy to connect offline as well. So let me just pop my link in there real quick. happygrasshopper.com/Dan. That will take you directly to my calendar if you need to follow up. So I'd love to hang out and answer questions, but I guess we've got a hard stop. So Jake, is that right? Do we need to wrap right now, or do we have time for a few questions? Okay, he's saying yes in the chat. So, all right. Thanks, everybody. Have a great day.
Thank you.
Yep. Take care.
Bye now.